This is 7 Minutes Cyber with Daniel Lawlor of Aquest and myself, Sam Glynn of Code in Motion. And the 7 minutes start now.
Last week, I got an unsolicited text message purportedly from a delivery company telling me that my supply of beer had been diverted and wasn't on its way. And within half an hour, I got an unsolicited call from an 076 number. To the man in the street, my sort of take on that was that the text message, originally I thought it might be something that somebody had scammed my credit card details. But with the call coming in after, I figured that the two were linked and that somehow the text message was to unsettle me, make me a little bit unsure, and that the purpose of the call then was it was some sort of premium number, and if I picked it up, I was going to be paying for the call at some sort of an exorbitant rate. So thankfully, I did neither, didn't respond. As a cyber expert, Sam, what's your take on that? What were they trying to achieve with that text and phone call?
Yeah, I mean, the exact nature of the scam is difficult to say until you engage with it. But I would have guessed that, yes, the first text was to unsettle you, to make you feel like there was some kind of an urgent thing to deal with, whether it was you urgently needed to collect that beer that you hadn't ordered, or urgently needed to talk to your bank about, what could have been a fraudulent transaction. And then the follow-up call from an 0766 number. They tend to be numbers that some of the banks use. So you might have known that. You see the number, you think this is the bank. And the next thing you're in a conversation with someone you think is the bank, but in reality is the scammer. And you reveal personal details that you later regret to have revealed. But what was interesting is the fact that you had kind of heightened awareness around, here's a text, seems too good to be true. And your reaction was, it is probably untrue.
Absolutely. And I think when I think back to my cyber training, one of the reasons why I think it was effective was that it placed cybersecurity very much in the personal context. So these are the kinds of things that can happen to you in your personal life. And by doing that, then it puts your antennae up and makes you alert to the things that can go wrong, so that when you go into your organization, you're also alert for the things that can go wrong in a professional context. And that was their way of trying to make that element of their cybersecurity world a bit stronger by really placing it both in a personal and then in a professional context. I think that's probably why I avoided that one.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it kind of just shows that there's different approaches to staff training when it comes to cybersecurity. I mean, every firm will know they need to train their staff in the same way as they train them about health and safety and whatever. They'll also have something to do with cybersecurity. But it can range from, here's a slide pack that some unknown team in HQ in the US put together about cybersecurity that talks about the IRS and other things that make no sense to an Irish audience. And that's kind of a low level of maturity. But moving it up to a place where you talk about instances where individuals can be targeted personally, suddenly they become much more interested in the topic because, there's something in it for them, protecting their own privacy and their own security. And whatever they do in their personal lives feeds then into what they might do in their professional lives. So it kind of moves you from sending someone a slide pack and hoping that they do the right thing to actually looking at, well, what is an effective training mechanism and the psychology of training someone about how they protect themselves in their personal lives. The psychology would show that results in them doing better things and behaving in a better way, securing the organization in their professional lives.
Yeah, I know. So when you talk to the non-experts, the unwashed like myself about cyber, you talk in very simple terms about three categories of state that firms are in when it comes to cyber, and it's either hopeful, comfortable, or provable. When it comes to training, what is the training like in a firm that's hopeful? Is there even training, or is it? What have you seen?
It is that kind of PowerPoint slide deck. Put everyone in a room for an hour, get them to sign an attendance list, and say that they've gone through training. That is very hopeful. I mean, it doesn't make it real for people. If you move it into, well, these are the types of scams that you will see in Ireland at this time around coronavirus or other things, then it's a bit more, you're moving into a more comfortable state in that you're telling people about what to watch for right now. This is how you will be scammed. This is how you will be targeted. I think moving into the provable state, which is where you should be when it comes to cybersecurity, and also where I think the regulator would like you to be. You need to talk about testing people. So you need to talk about, well, we've gone through testing or we've gone through training, but how effective was it? How do you know it was effective unless you test people? So you can either let the scammers test them and see how you get on, or you can test them yourself. And I think to get into that third state, that ideal state around cybersecurity, you'll have tested people, you'll have seen how good your training is, and you'll learn from that, and you'll make your training better as you go along.
Yeah, and I know, thinking about it with a regulator's hat on, of course, if I'm the regulator, I want all of my firms to be in the provable state. We know that the regulator is interested and concerned about cybersecurity because they've done their own thematic inspection on it. They've done a Dear CEO letter on it earlier this year. And now, of course, as a lot of firms deploy business continuity and work from home, they'll be interested to know how firms are managing those risks. So it's something definitely on the agenda. And it's absolutely something you can imagine the regulator is going to reach out to firms on and actively pursue and see, are you in the provable state? Are you in the comfortable state? How can you demonstrate to me that you've done all the things that you should do? And it may be that that engagement is either part of a regular engagement, but absolutely you can imagine that if a firm suffers something as a result of a security incident and has to tell the regulator
last minute,
had a loss. Last minute, oh God.
Yes.
Had a loss, the regulator is absolutely going to know, well, that's it. Show me in detail. Prove to me that you had very good cybersecurity.
But the thing is, I mean, like when it comes to cybersecurity, I think the regulator is really just telling you what you should already know. So cybersecurity is not about aligning to the regulator and doing what the regulator tells you to do. It's about protecting your money. It's about protecting your organization and protecting your own personal reputation. Because these scams are not necessarily sophisticated. There are things you can do on a human side and on the technical side to reduce the risk of falling victim to them. And you should, because they're everyday scams. So regardless of what the regulator is saying, you should be worried about this. You should be doing things to protect yourself against it. You know, and it's not hard to see companies when they're in hopeful or they're uncomfortable. They're not really thinking about it. They're not really thinking about these professional scammers, how they're targeting their staff. They're not taking it seriously. So they're easy targets. And firms need to do better. And I think the reason why the regulator is out there with Dear CEO letters is that they can see people aren't taking it seriously. And that is our 7-minute shine.